nicht diese Töne, sondern lasst uns angenehmere anstimmen und Freuden vollere.
Very enthusiastic crowd today. Thank you for coming. I'm Captain Nicole Davila. I'm the Academy Director here for the Milwaukee Police Department. Welcome to our Fall Merit Awards presentation. We are going to have our dignitaries and executive staff enter. Thank you, and can we give a round of applause to our band led by retired Lieutenant Karen Dubis, the oldest police band. Okay, it's pretty full in here. Thank you all for coming and supporting your loved ones, our police officers, our community award winners. I'm going to introduce the dignitaries in the front row, and then we will get started. Chief Edward Flynn, please stand up. Thank you. Mayor Tom Barrett. The Executive Director of the Fire and Police Commission, Mary Nell Regan. Alderman Terry Witkowski of the 13th District. The Chief of Staff to Ashanti Hamilton, the Common Council President, Sam Coleman. Assistant Chief Jessup. Assistant Chief Harple. Inspector Gordon, Inspector Teeley, and Inspector Jackson. Okay, will you please rise for the presentation of the colors by the Milwaukee Police Department Color Guard under the direction of Lieutenant Derek Harris.
Stoker, walk. Freeze it. Off.
Thank you. You may be seated. We only get to do the Merit Awards twice a year, in which we recognize all our community work and the good things our officers do, but I assure you that it happens all year round. So, to begin our ceremony, Mayor,
Thank you, Captain. Well, good evening. For those of you who have not been to one of these ceremonies before, you are in for a treat. I love being the mayor of the city of Milwaukee, and people ask me about my job, and I tell them I still love my job, but I swear more than I used to. So you'll have to forgive me for my sins for that. And that happens when things go wrong, when you have someone who's been in a horrible situation, a horrible accident, or a victim of a crime, or just things don't go right in the city. But at the same time, there are fabulous things that go on in our community. And I wish tonight that we could have all the residents of our city right here with us. Because what we're going to see tonight, and what you're going to witness tonight, and again, many of you are family members or friends of the people being recognized, so you already know the stories. And I wish the people who didn't have family members or friends who are with the police department could be here tonight to see the men and women who work for us, who are public servants, who are here to make sure that we can be safe when we go home or when we leave work or when we leave school. And it's important, I think, for us to recognize the men and women who put their lives on the line for us every single day in this city so that we can be safe. And so tonight, I call tonight the reality TV show, but you don't have to stay at home because you're going to hear about it all right here. It's going to be better than a reality TV show because it's actually real. And what we're going to hear about is we're going to hear the stories of bravery. We're going to hear the stories of people going above and beyond the call of duty, of putting their lives in jeopardy, or showing a professionalism that really exceeds expectations for many, many people. And I think if more of our citizens could see what was going on tonight and see how hard our police officers work for them and with them, perhaps the dialogue in the city would be a little different. So our job tonight, again, is to sit back, relax. I think maybe when we do this in the future, we should sell popcorn or give popcorn away, so you can just sit back and munch on the popcorn and hear the stories of bravery and professionalism and honor, because that's what we're going to hear tonight. So to all the men and women who are being recognized tonight, I give you a heartfelt thank you for your service to our community. To all the members of our police department, I say thank you for the sacrifices you make. And I say thank you to your family members for the sacrifices you make. One of the things that I say in the community, and I really mean this, is we have to find a way to improve the relationship between the community and the police department. And what does that mean? That means two things. I need this to be a city where our residents can work with and respect our police officers. At the same time, I need this to be a city where our police officers can work with and respect our residents. It's a two-way street. And for it to happen, you have to have the training, you have to have the heart, you have to have the professionalism that I believe our police officers have. And many of them received it from family members who are here, their parents, their loved ones, who teach them that empathy, who teach them that professionalism, that teach them how you have to interact with people. Because this is, above anything else, this is a human interaction job. And again, what's important for all of us to remember is that the men and women who choose this as their vocation, not just a job, but as a vocation, are doing so to make this a better community for all of us. So again, thank you. Let's sit back and let's enjoy a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Our next speaker will be Chief Flynn.
Well, good evening. Welcome. I'm glad to see you all here. I'm glad to see the greater Milwaukee police family coming together for a celebratory event. You know, this can often feel like a very solitary profession. We don't spend our time working in large groups. We spend most of our time working alone or perhaps with a partner, facing a wide variety of circumstances that are both dangerous as well as unnerving and sometimes very, very stressful. So what we have for support are the people that are gathered here in the bleachers. Our family, our friends, our parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters, loved ones, spouses. You're the ones who provide the backdrop and the support for people who every day and every night see the worst of people and people at their worst and function at a very high level to protect people who have no one else to rely on. So we salute them. We salute them for representing the values for which they stand. Tonight we celebrate our values, our core values of courage and competence, integrity and leadership, respect and restraint. All of these values come together in the day-to-day performance of the men and women sitting here before you today. It's a tribute to their courage and commitment and dedication that we can celebrate the activities we will celebrate. But it's also a credit to you, their extended families, who brought them into the world, who raised them, who continue to support them in their difficult work. So we're as proud of you as we are of them. Now, we've just finished budget season here in Milwaukee, and I want to take a moment to certainly recognize Mayor Barrett for his support for our budget that literally represents 100% of the local tax levy. There's no component of the criminal justice system that is funded at a higher level by its government than your police department. There's a lot of talk about whether it's enough, not enough, too much, what have you. The key issue for us is we recognize we are part of a social system that includes and depends upon the police, but also depends on other city services as well. And we're certainly not going to be positioned to argue against other important city services in order to get marginal increases in our budget. Our job as leadership, the leadership represented here, to work within what this city can afford to provide for its police department. And I want to assure you, when you compare the city's commitment to any other level of government, all the way up through the federal government, no level of government is as committed to funding its component of the criminal justice system as this city is. So it's a tribute to the mayor, to the city council president for his support, for Alderman Witkowski, who's here today, representing his district and has been a strong supporter of us. We're fortunate to have their support as they balance the needs of this city and balance its many important interest groups. But I reference the budget season for one reason as well. Rhetoric tends to be a little hyperbolic during budget season. And if you had any opportunity to watch some of the budget discussions, you would have been forgiven to think that Milwaukee had descended into a modern Sodom and Gomorrah. The sky was falling. Things have never been worse. Blood is running in the streets. And what's the police department doing about it? That was my version of hyperbole. Having said that, I just thought I'd share some information with you because the men and women here deserve to be appropriately recognized for the quality of work that they've done so far. So we're almost 11 months into the year. 11 months into the year, they have reduced homicides by 19% so far. I didn't hear that in any of the budget discussions. These men and women have decreased rape by 14%. They've decreased robbery by 12%. They've decreased burglary by 3%. They've decreased motor vehicle theft by 14%. And our clearance rate, homicides solved by arrest, are 74% right now. That's 20 points above the national average for cities our size. Now, I didn't do that. The command staff didn't do it. The men and women sitting here with medals on their chests tonight for valor, for excellence, for merit, for life-saving, they have done it. And I got damn sick and tired of hearing how out of control things were because presumably they weren't working hard enough. So you should celebrate them as you are. You should be proud of them. And this city deserves to be proud of them. Well, I feel better. Now let's celebrate and pin some medals on and have some big smiles and take some good pictures. Welcome. Yeah.
Okay, just wondering why I put it there. The best part of Merit Awards is that I don't have to MC the entire time. We get celebrities. So on that note, I would like to invite the anchor of Fox 6 News, Mary Stoker Smith, to the stage. Mayor.
Celebrity, and you use the term loosely. Believe me, it's such an honor to be here, a pleasure. I was just over the moon when I got the invitation to come a couple weeks ago, and of course my boss backed me on that one. He said, go for it, just don't screw up. Who, me? So it's an honor and a pleasure. We talk about so many of you every night. We have the utmost respect. I hope you feel the warmth that so many in the community perhaps never get the opportunity to extend to you. So many just don't have the opportunity to say thank you, but I can tell you that you are valued, you are trusted, and there's a sense of safety and security. And it's just remarkable to be amongst such hardworking people and, of course, your families as well. It's cool because I see a lot of stories, obviously, in the news, but I got to tell you, last night, I thought, should I say this? But yeah, I got home last night, and I'm going through my script, and I'm reading these stories that sound like they belong in a movie. You guys rescuing people from burning cars, explosions, icy waters of Lake Michigan, talking people down to safety, people who didn't want to live and now they're living. I thought, this is inspiring. What am I doing with my life? And then I thought, you know what I really thought? You know who needs to be here tonight? Green Bay Packers. I'm telling you, if Aaron Rodgers was in the crowd and he heard some of these stories, he'd say, broken collarbone, forget about it. I'm on the gridiron Sunday. Football fans, do we have any? Good. Incidentally, one more thing, we are giving away a new award tonight, a special award. It's for that just one police officer that calls out sick and doesn't want to go on calls, spends a lot of time on Facebook in the office, you know, doesn't want to play hurt. It's called the Martellus Bennett Award. Patriots fan, any Patriots fan in here? Thank you and good night. All right, with that said, Packers fans and everybody else, let's get ready for a great night. Let's have some fun because we are going to begin with the Physical Readiness Challenge Award tonight. This is brand new. So we're going to ask the following to come to the stage, and this is going to be for a bronze pin. And we're going to start the night off right. It's going to be presented to Detective Dave Metz, Police Officer Jonathan Bone, Police Officer Erica Tolentino, and Police Aide Dakota Elm. We have a silver pin that's going to be presented to Lieutenant Scott Charles, Sergeant Richard Hoffman, Sergeant Carrie Nameen, Police Officer Kai Anderson, Police Officer Savon Boston, Police Officer Katie Coro, Police Officer Darren Bacard, Police Officer Frolien Santiago, and Police Officer Kenneth Walkowiak. We have that great gold pin that's going to be presented to right now, Police Officer Wyatt Grakowski. Now, again, as I mentioned, this was new. The Physical Readiness Challenge is the first of its kind for the Milwaukee Police Department. This particular event tests participants in 5 physical fitness events, a 1.5-mile run, a 300-meter swim, a vertical jump, push-ups, sit-ups. Each participant is then scored based on the established Cooper Fitness Standard, which considers age and sex. And then their cumulative score is then placed them into one of 6 levels. Only participants who score in one of the top 3 position actually earn one of those fitness pins that you heard about, the gold, the silver, and the bronze. So a great effort there. Congratulations to all who been presented with this award tonight. All right, we're going to keep things moving for District 1, led by Captain Diana Rowe. Officers Alejandro Leal and Ronaldo Roman, Jr. receiving the Lifesaving Award. On September 17, 2007, the officers responded to a subject in Lake Michigan near North Lincoln Memorial Drive. Upon their arrival, they found an individual in the water, and without hesitating at all, they entered in, and as you can imagine, it was cold. When they reached the man, he told them he wanted to kill himself by drowning and began physically resisting the officers as they attempted to pull him to safety. Eventually, they did pull him to land, and the man was transported to a local hospital for treatment. As a result of their courage, devotion, and of course their quick thinking, the officers saved the life of a suicidal individual. Now for Community Education Assistant Monica Sosa receiving the Meritorious Service Award. On July 20th, 2017, 3 related burglaries and a stabbing took place on Milwaukee's east side. Ms. Sosa heard the request for an officer with a camera and the ability to lift fingerprints. Due to limited resources, she volunteered for this assignment and tried to lift fingerprints from all of the locations, knowing how important it was to solve the cases. Because of her tenacious efforts, she was able to lift an unusable print from a window of one of the homes out there. The print was quickly linked to an individual who worked in the area, and because of that particular fingerprint, detectives were able to connect all 3 incidents to one person. Ms. Sosa displayed a level of professionalism that should be admired. Her dedication is reflected in the quality of her work and her willingness to help her colleagues. Jacob Hensley receiving the Conduct Citizens Award, Valorous Conduct Citizens Award. This goes back to August 12, 2017. Mr. Hensley was driving southbound on Interstate I-43 and the Marquette Interchange when he saw a car pulled to the side of the road on fire. Mr. Hensley approached the vehicle and saw a man inside of the car appearing to be dazed and somewhat unaware of the situation. He reached inside the vehicle, unlocked the door, and pulled the man to safety. And Mr. Hensley was pulling the man away. While he was doing that, get this, the car exploded. At this point, Milwaukee County Sheriff's deputies arrived on scene to control the situation, and despite the fact that Mr. Hensley had no formal training, he disregarded his own personal safety and really helped a stranger in need. Quite a story. Great job. Mr. Robert Manhart is receiving the Conduct Citizen Award tonight. Mr. Hirschbeck met with Mr. Kent Kruger, receiving the Meritorious Conduct Citizen Award. On July 19, 2017, Mr. Hirschbeck and Mr. Kruger were returning to shore after fishing in Lake Michigan when they saw a small fishing boat which appeared unoccupied. Mr. Kruger called out Mayday and activated the man overboard button on his GPS to alert the Coast Guard. Mr. Hirschbeck and Mr. Kruger then pulled up alongside of an unoccupied boat. Mr. Kruger boarded the boat and saw it was unmanned, but did locate a cell phone, which was later determined to belong to the victim who had fallen overboard. On another boat, Mr. Manhart heard the Mayday call. He began to search for possible victims and located a man in the water. He threw a life ring to the man, but he had gone unconscious. A short time later, the Coast Guard arrived and pulled the man from the water. This group's alertness and motivation helped the Coast Guard rescue the man and gave the victim a chance to survive. For District 2, led by Captain Alexander Ramirez, the Lifesaving Award is presented to Officers Stephen Campbell, Aaron Frantel, Gregory Knox, Boyan Sedmarzik for their Conduct Citizen Award, presented to Mr. Charles Harris. On August 23rd, 2017, Mr. Harris called MPD as a female was standing on the other side of a fence on the 27th Street Viaduct. Mr. Harris began talking with the female, and when officers arrived, they immediately took action. They began dialogue with her while taking control of some of the articles of clothing through the chain link fence to prevent her from falling. For about 15 minutes, the officers maintained a positive dialogue with the female, trying to keep her calm. Members of the Milwaukee Fire Department later arrived and placed ladders on the chain link fence to assist the female back over it and bring her to safety. If it were not for the quick actions and the calm demeanors of these officers and Mr. Charles Harris, the subject may have succeeded in the attempt to take her own life. The The Lifesaving Award is presented to officers Benjamin Delaney, Gustavo Gonzalez, and James Spinato. On May 13, 2017, these officers responded to a double shooting near South 14th Street and West Beecher Street. At the scene, Officer Delaney found the first victim in the backyard bleeding from his leg. Officer Delaney quickly applied his tourniquet, which helped stop the bleeding and remained with the victim until medical personnel arrived. Officer Gonzalez and Spinato found the second victim bleeding in the kitchen and also applied their tourniquets. The victims were then transported to a local hospital for treatment. The rapid response by these officers ensured the survival of the victims. The Purple Star Award is presented to officers Jose Ramirez and Peter Ulatowski. On April 17, 2016, officers Ramirez and Ulatowski were driving a marked squad car to an assignment as they were traveling eastbound on West Lincoln Avenue. A vehicle traveling southbound on West Windlake Ave ignored a red traffic light and struck the squad car. As a result of the accident, Officer Ramirez suffered a concussion, lacerations, and bruising. Officer Ulatowski suffered facial lacerations and a broken left ankle. As the squad car came to a rest after the collision, the officers were able to exit. They immediately detained the driver, who was intoxicated. The passenger in the striking vehicle also suffered injuries because of the crash. The officers contacted the dispatcher via radio to request medical attention and additional squads to the scene there. Their actions and quick thinking led to the arrest of the suspect and provided help to the crash victim. We have another service award presented to Officer Eric Andrade. On September 9th, 2017, Officer Andrade was dispatched to a subject with a weapon complaint near South 13th and West Arthur Avenue. Officer Andrade located the man who was armed with a knife in a bedroom with a blanket over himself, and then after engaging in meaningful dialogue, Officer Andrade was able to convince the man to put the knife down. After a little more dialogue, the subject became agitated when he said that he needed to go to Milwaukee County Mental Health. Again, Officer Andrade calmly talked to the man, eventually convinced him to seek treatment. Officer Andrade exhibited extreme restraint and professionalism and compassion when dealing with this armed subject. The Meritorious Service Award is presented to officers Aaron Frantel, Richard Klakowski, and Luis Vargas Ramos. On June 20th, 2017, these officers conducted a traffic stop near South 34th Street and West Scott. They made contact with both the driver and the front passenger of the vehicle, both of whom were uncooperative and refused to exit the car, despite a strong scent of marijuana coming from it. For over 40 minutes, the officers tried to get both people to exit the vehicle with no success. Eventually, the officers saw an opportunity to safely unlock the door, remove one of the subjects armed with a firearm without any incident. The other armed subject was combative with the officers. The suspect was actively resisting for about 3 minutes before officers were able to gain control. A search of the vehicle revealed numerous narcotics. These officers demonstrated courage and exceptionally quick thinking when dealing with a dangerous person. The Meritorious Conduct Citizen Awards are presented to Jamie Curbello, Sr., Mr. Jamie D. Curbello, Mr. Jamie V. Get all the B's and the V's? Curbello, and Ms. Ebony Farrell, and Mr. Eduardo Sebastian Baltazar. On September 11th, 2017, near South 18th Street and West Lincoln Avenue, a person was engaged in lewd and lascivious acts near a school. Mr. Curbello alerted the school to the incident so they could keep their children away from the area. Mr. Curbello and Mr. Sebastian Baltazar attempted to detain the subject, but the man started to run away. Mr. Curbello, his sons, Mr. Sebastian Baltazar and Ms. Farrell, were then able to catch up to the suspect, subdue him until Milwaukee police did arrive. It was later revealed that the subject was wanted for multiple bank robberies, burglaries, and other instances of lewd and lascivious behavior to schools. This group's bravery helped prevent the subject from escaping and prevented him from committing more crimes. For District 3, led by Captain Shantae Boston Smith, officers Natalie Cruz and Scott Whitting Jr. are receiving the Lifesaving Award. On September 3rd, 2017, their officers responded to a shooting near North 39th Street and West Meineke Avenue. At that location, the victim had been shot to the chest and was having trouble breathing. The officers found an exit wound on the victim's back and placed a dressing on the wound. The officers also discovered the victim had fluid in his lungs. Officer Cruz inserted an airway into the man's nose to assist with his unstable breathing. Both officers then moved the victim to a more secure location where the Milwaukee Fire Department took over. The skills of the officers and their efficient treatment helped prevent the loss of life. Detectives Rodolfo Alvarado and Timothy Keller are receiving the Meritorious Service Award. Back on June 23, 2017, the detectives were sent to a home near North 37th Street and West Kilbourne Avenue where a man had barricaded himself inside of a home. The man, who spoke limited English, was in a room with his younger daughter and was armed. Detective Keller, who is a trained negotiator, and Detective Alvarado, who speaks Spanish, began talking to the man. The man did eventually let his daughter go, but moved to another room and stated he wanted the police to kill him. Eventually, the man did surrender. These detectives showed great courage by negotiating with an armed subject for over 3 hours while ensuring a safe outcome. For District 5, led by Captain Timothy Heyer, Sergeant Sean Mankey and officers Michael Bashevsky, Jeffrey Kennedy, and Brian Miller are receiving the Medal of Valor Combat Award. Sergeant Robert Crawley and Officer Patrick Shannon are receiving the Meritorious Service Award. On July 22nd, 2016, officers were dispatched to a strong armed robbery near North 5th Street and West Wright Street. The investigation revealed a known suspect had beaten and then robbed a citizen and then fled the crime scene. The next day, the officers were sent to the same address, yet this call started with someone being stabbed. Again, the suspect fled the scene but returned a short time later. The suspect entered the crime scene by removing the yellow tape and approached officers while holding a knife. The officers engaged the suspect in conversation with the hope he would surrender. The suspect continued to advance, raised the knife, and then lunged towards the officers. The officers deployed their tasers and fired shots to stop the deadly threat presented by the suspect. These officers demonstrated courage in the apprehension of this criminal. Officers Kevin Manley and Cody Wetzel are receiving the Lifesaving Award. On July 22nd of this year, these officers were assigned to a walking beat when they saw a vehicle strike a parked car. That happened near North 22nd Street and West Capitol Drive. These two rushed over to the vehicle and saw that the front passenger was unresponsive. There was no pulse, and the person was not breathing. The officers immediately removed the unconscious individual from the vehicle and requested medical attention. CPR was then performed in the subject as the officers took turns performing chest compressions. Eventually, they were able to restore a pulse and the subject started breathing again. The heroic actions of these officers helped prevent the loss of life. Officers Mark Dillman and Nathan Smolkowski are receiving the Lifesaving Award. At the beginning of the year, on January 24th, 2017, these officers attempted to conduct a traffic stop near North 27th Street and West Clark Street. The driver refused to pull over and fled the scene. The officers notified dispatch of their non-pursuit when, from a distance, that same vehicle disregarded a traffic signal just a few blocks away. The vehicle crashed into a tree and burst into flames. One of the occupants was thrown from the car while the other two were actually trapped inside. Disregarding their own personal safety, the officers reached inside the vehicle, which, by the way, was engulfed in flames, and pulled the two occupants to safety. The officers tended to the wounds of the ejected occupant while standing by for the Milwaukee Fire Department. These officers demonstrated their commitment to protecting lives of the citizens that they serve every day. Officers Chad Boyack and Anthony Malone are receiving the Meritorious Service Award. On September 20th of this year, these officers were patrolling near North 24th Street and West Center Street when they spotted a vehicle taken in a recent robbery. The officers activated their lights and sirens on their marked squad car and attempted to conduct a traffic stop. The car then fled at a high rate of speed. The officers pursued the vehicle through 4 different districts. This went on for nearly an hour. The fleeing vehicle reached excessive speeds and showed utter disregard for any human life. Eventually, it was determined by the officers that their squad needed gas and air in their tires, and they surrendered the primary pursuit role to another squad. Eventually, the 3 occupants of the vehicle abandoned the car, fled on foot. 2 of the 3 suspects were arrested after a brief foot pursuit. One of the suspects was concealing a weapon on him. The officers were determined to apprehend the suspects and protect the citizens from their reign of terror. Officers Jesse Bushart, Michael T. Driscoll, Kyle Graff, Jordan Hemmings, and Brian Wonder are receiving the Meritorious Service Award for actions back on November 17, 2016. These officers responded to North 26th Street and West Rubin Avenue for an entry call. The caller stated that a burglary was taking place, and when the officers arrived, the suspects fired gunshots towards them. The officers ran toward the shots, fired without hesitation as the gunman fled the scene. The search then began for a suspect. A short time later, the suspect was arrested without incident. These officers not only acted courageously during difficult circumstances, but also prevented a burglary from happening. The suspect confessed to the crime and was charged with first-degree attempted intentional homicide and burglary. And we ask that Officer Bushart stay on stage as he is receiving another service award. More hardware. Good stuff. On June 11, 2017, Officer Bushart responded to a call for assistance near North 22nd Street and West Locust Street. An undercover officer had been shot at by suspects driving a red Mazda. Because of the immediate response, Officer Bushart located the vehicle in the area where the shots were fired. Knowing those suspects were armed and dangerous, the officer pursued the vehicle with great determination. The suspect's vehicle became inoperative, and one of the suspects fled on foot. Officer Bushart pursued the suspect on foot and quickly apprehended him. Responding officers recovered a rifle and semi-automatic handgun from the suspect's vehicle. Investigating officers later discovered a 3rd firearm that was discarded from the vehicle while it was fleeing from the crime scene. Furthermore, it was discovered these suspects had fired their weapons at a citizen just a few blocks away. Officer Bushart demonstrated courage as he placed the safety of the citizens he protected and protects every day above his own. For District 6, led by Captain Jeffrey Point, the Lifesaving Award is presented to Officers Henry Duman III and Fabian Garcia. On May 16, 2017, these officers were dispatched to a stabbing on South Winchester Avenue in Bayview. When they arrived, the officers found a male victim bleeding profusely from his right arm. Officer Duman attempted to apply his tourniquet to stop the men's bleeding, but because of the man's agitation, he wasn't able to do it. Officer Garcia was unable to apply his tourniquet that stopped the bleeding. The man was then taken to the local hospital where a trauma doctor said that had the officers not intervened with these life-saving measures, the man likely would have died right there at the scene. The Lifesaving Award is presented to Officers Michael Dietrich and Michael Crone. On September 21, 2017, these officers responded to South William Street in Bayview regarding the welfare of a citizen. An elderly caller believed that there was someone dead in her basement, but was physically unable to go check it out. Upon entering the basement, an unconscious female was on the floor with no pulse. Officer Crone proceeded to perform life-saving measures while Officer Dietrich administered Narcan in an attempt to revive the woman. While still unresponsive, Officer Crone started chest compressions and Officer Dietrich performed rescue breaths. After performing CPR, the woman's pulse was restored. Because of their courage, devotion, and quick thinking, these officers ultimately saved the woman's life. Another life-saving award presented to Officer Dale Kaczewski. Close enough, I got it, huh? On April 9, 2017, Officer Kaczewski was working to locate a suicidal man who had sustained some serious self-inflicted wounds to his arm. Officer Kaczewski was searching the Kinnickinnick River Parkway in the Jackson Park neighborhood when he spotted a piece of blue jean material near a fallen tree. The material was actually the pants of the man who was missing, and Officer Kaczewski saw the man in the river about 10 to 12 feet below the ground level. Officer Kaczewski descended onto the loose ground and was able to communicate with the man. The man had serious wounds, fractured, and numerous cuts all over. The officer stayed with the man until medical help arrived, and as a result, Officer Kaczewski's immediate actions, paramedics on scene stated that he saved the man's life. The Meritorious Conduct Citizen Award is presented to Ms. Cynthia Campbell. On March 27, 2017, a woman was reported missing from South 10th Street and West Euclid Avenue. The missing woman was elderly and had been diagnosed with early stages of Alzheimer's disease, but was able to drive her vehicle at least for short distances. Little time later, Ms. Campbell was leaving work near Westport Wash Road and West Capitol Drive. The missing woman pulled up to Ms. Campbell in her vehicle and stated that she was lost and unable to find her way home. Ms. Campbell was given the address to where the missing woman lives and began to drive to that location with the elderly woman following in her own vehicle. Ms. Campbell took city streets, avoiding the freeway, as the woman stated that she was fearful of getting on the freeway. Ms. Campbell was able to locate the woman's residence and return her home safely, driving a total of 12 miles. Ms. Campbell displayed tremendous character and went above and beyond to help a confused citizen who really needed some help. For District 7, led by Captain Boris Tursinovich, officers Russell Barker and Brian Kolazinski are receiving the Lifesaving Award. On July 2nd, 2017, these officers were dispatched to a fire at a house near North 49th Street and West Concordia Avenue. Upon entering the front of the residence, they saw 4 people in the lower unit unaware that there was a fire. The citizens advised the officers there were residents in the upper unit where the fire was actually coming from. The officers ran to the stairs and yelled to the residents in the upper unit to evacuate because there was a fire. The officers successfully evacuated 9 residents ranging in ages from 4 years old to 60. As a result of their courage, devotion, and quick thinking, the officers saved numerous lives. Officer Chad Poppy coming to the stage to receive the Meritorious Service Award for his actions on July 15, 2017. He was dispatched to a suicidal attempt near North 67th Street and West Locust Street. On the scene, Officer Poppy was advised by another person that a male subject had stabbed himself in the neck. Officer Poppy located a trail of blood and followed it to where a male with a large laceration and another individual applying pressure. Officer Poppy helped apply pressure to the subject's wounded neck. Officer Poppy aided the subject until the Milwaukee Fire Department arrived and continued medical treatment. Officer Poppy's actions helped save the life of a citizen in distress. Police aide Jonathan Schrader is receiving the Meritorious Service Award tonight. for his actions back on June 12, 2017. There was a suspect that was arrested for domestic violence and conveyed to District 7 for processing. During the initial screening, there was no indication that the suspect was actually suicidal. After a short time later, police aide Schrader heard yelling from the cell which the suspect was in. Schrader saw the suspect sitting on his bench, stating he wanted to kill himself. Schrader briefly left to make the appropriate notifications. After he returned, he saw the suspect with a T-shirt wrapped around his neck. Schrader activated the panic button there, and other officers responded to the cell block to assist. Police aide Schrader and the other officers worked together to remove the shirt from the suspect's neck and were able to save his life. For the Intelligence Fusion Center, led by Captain David Salazar, the Distinguished Service Award is presented to Detective Richard McCune. Since the assumption of the High Technology Unit in 2004, Detective McCune has been a leader in research and application of technological advances in the industry. Detective McCune had created programs used across the country to capture and process memory from running computers. He has been nationally recognized for his work in malware forensics, and his efforts have often led to the discovery of items that will be used in cases otherwise left unnoticed. Detective McCune's ability to develop innovative and creative solutions is indicative of his mindset, and through his initiatives, the High Technology Unit has maintained itself as a leader in digital forensics. Detective McCune's resourcefulness and willingness to share his knowledge and experience has helped support investigations through the City of Milwaukee. The Excellence in Police Service Award is presented to Detective Walter Capelli, Officer Christopher Agnew, and Police Aide Andrew Robleski. On March 28, 2017, this group helped investigate a shooting on the north side. They reviewed poll camera footage from the area of North 27th Street and West Burleigh. They focused the video on a gas station parking lot and the surrounding traffic close to the scene and saw a silver vehicle traveling along Burleigh Street with a firearm being presented from one of the occupants in the vehicle. After running various license plates, the group was able to discover that the suspect's vehicle listed the silver Mercury Milan. As a result of that information, officers went to the address where the vehicle was listed to. They took 2 armed suspects into custody. This group's attention to detail prevented further crimes from being committed by these individuals. And for the Neighborhood Task Force, led by Acting Captain Lieutenant Derek Harris, officers Trevor Dubois, Jeremy Green, Eric Rodriguez, Michael Schwant, and Daniel Sebald are receiving the Medal of Valor Rescue Award. Officer Dubois' wife, Shantae, is receiving the award on his behalf as he is serving in Lebanon right now with the United States Army. Receiving the Valorous Conduct Awards are Deputy Sheriffs Joseph Zarletti, Michael Pitsley, John Seifries, and Christopher Rydelsky from the Kenosha County Sheriff's Department, Police Officer Austin Breshew from the Kenosha Police Department, and firefighter Stephen Rademski from the Milwaukee Fire Department. On August 14, 2016, the Milwaukee Police Department Tactical Enforcement Unit were joined by members from outside law enforcement agency, as you'd heard, attempted to stop rioting and restore order during a violent civil disturbance. This group could hear gunshots from a very close range and saw rocks and bricks being thrown in their direction. In midst of all the chaos, a citizen was struck by gunfire. The group of officers exited their armored vehicles and moved quickly toward the victim. The crowd around them continued to behave violently toward the officers. The officers moved the victim to safety, where a paramedic began life-saving measures. The victim was conveyed to the hospital, where he did survive. As a result of their professionalism, courage, and collaborative efforts, this tactical unit risked their lives to save the life of a citizen in desperate need. For the Office of Community Outreach and Education, led by Captain Ray Banks. The Purple Star Award is presented to Officers Paul Marchese and Andrew Marks. On July 20th, 2017, these officers were assigned to the Promise Zone Initiative, which was a foot patrol beat in selected neighborhoods. While walking on the northwest side, they were flagged down by a citizen who wanted to report a nuisance property. As they spoke with the vehicle, the citizen, a vehicle driving recklessly, lost control, struck the officers on the sidewalk, and then took off. Officer Marchese suffered substantial injuries to his elbow and shoulder. Officer Mark suffered a fractured tibia and some head injuries. These officers remained calm and sent pertinent information regarding the vehicle involved to responding officers. They obtained a description of the vehicle, which led to the eventual apprehension of the driver. The ability of these officers to provide important information in spite of their own serious injuries allowed the reckless driver to be apprehended. For the Office of Management, Analysis, and Planning, led by Director Leslie Saletti, Sergeant Chad Radin, and Officers Penny Brown, David Novak, and Denise Ruda are receiving the Meritorious Service Award. In May of 2017, these members of the License Investigative Unit assist both the DEA and the Wisconsin Department of Revenue with a synthetic marijuana manufacturing and distribution investigation. MPD assisted with the execution of a search warrant at a Milwaukee convenience store where synthetic marijuana was being sold. A large quantity was located along with scales, packaging devices, a handgun, and some other related items. A search warrant was also executed at a commercial business located in Oak Creek. An even larger quantity of synthetic marijuana was found at this location. This site was actively being used for the manufacture, packaging, and distribution of the drug. Early estimates of the value of the illegal items seized were in excess of $2 million. These officers should be commended for their assistance in this investigation and their professional work in removing a dangerous drug from the streets. And for the South Investigations Division, led by Captain Paul Formallo, Service Award is presented to Officers Jack Kelly, Stephanie Seitz, and Jose Ferreira. On August 31st, 2017, these officers helped in a vehicle pursuit of a vehicle taken in an armed robbery earlier that night. This pursuit lasted for more than 37 miles. These officers were quickly able to maneuver their squad while providing a clear and accurate broadcast of the vehicle's direction of travel. The stolen vehicle eventually became disabled near North 36th Street and West Capitol Drive, with all 4 occupants fleeing on foot. 2 occupants were arrested a short time later, and the other 2 were identified by fingerprints. Inside the vehicle were 4 loaded guns, a pound of marijuana, and $3,000 in cash. The persistence and courage of these officers resulted in the arrest of suspects and ended their crime spree. For the Technical Communications Division, led by Captain Paul Felician, Emergency Communications Operator 1 Stephanie Radke is receiving the Excellence in Police Service Award tonight. On Monday, May 1st, 2017, Officer Radke took a call from a citizen stating that he was hearing voices and he wanted to commit suicide. A few minutes later, another call came in from that same citizen, which Operator Radke handled once again. The caller stated he wished to be with his deceased mother. Operator Radke was able to engage the caller in conversation until a squad arrived. During the conversation, Operator Radke reassured the caller that he was doing the right thing by calling. Operator Radke, calmly reminded him that he took the first step in getting help, and her effective communication and de-escalation skills gave hope to a distressed, suicidal citizen and prevented a loss of life. We are presenting 2 very special awards tonight. They are the Chief Superior Leadership Awards, and the first tonight is going to be presented to Assistant Chief James Harpole. Assistant Chief Harpole began his career with the Milwaukee Police Department in September of 1985 as a police aide. Throughout his long career, he was promoted to the rank of police officer, sergeant, lieutenant, captain, and in 2008, assistant chief. He has worked in several locations, including districts, the Identification Division, Data Services Division, the Communications Division, the Patrol Support Division, and the Internal Affairs Division. Assistant Chief Harpole's current position is the commander of the Neighborhood Patrol Bureau. This includes all 7 districts, the Neighborhood Task Force, the Office of Community Outreach. Assistant Chief Harpole has dutifully taken on the added responsibility that comes with the job. He demonstrates leadership on a daily basis with honorable conduct. As a representative of the Chief of Police and the Department, Assistant Chief Harpole's integrity and work ethic is an example to all members of the Police Department. His passion for the history of the department shows his commitment to serving the citizens of Milwaukee and the entire department. The second Chief Superior Leadership Award is presented to Assistant Chief William Jessup. Assistant Chief Jessup began his career with the Milwaukee Police Department back in February of 1990 and in the past 27 years has been promoted to the ranks of detective, lieutenant, captain, and inspector, and in February of 2016, Assistant Chief of Police. He served in various assignments, including the Criminal Investigation Bureau, Neighborhood Policing Bureau, the Risk Management Bureau, and currently Assistant Chief Jessup commands the Investigations and Intelligence Bureau at the Risk Management Bureau. Recent restructuring and retirements within the department have given added responsibility to Assistant Chief Jessup. He has taken on these extra duties with professionalism, and his leadership serves as an example to all department members. His service to the citizens of Milwaukee and his pursuit of the Milwaukee Police Department's mission is truly exceptional. Now we're going to ask the following members to come to the stage to receive their Excellence in Police Service Award. Taking the lead here, Officer Chad Boyack, Officer Jesse Buzzhart, Officer Brian Downey, Officer Tobias Golem Bieski, Officer Andrew Gross, Officer Timothy Kretschke, Officer Michael Mahalski, Officer Anthony Malone, Officer Gary Post, Officer Jose Rivera III, Officer Justin Schwartzhuber, Officer James Sweers, and Officer Joshua Yang. These officers are being recognized for receiving numerous consistent letters of commendation. These letters show the daily outstanding performance of these officers as well as their willingness to go above and beyond the ordinary call of duty. We truly do appreciate the faithful contribution these officers make to MPD's mission. And finally, certainly last but not least, we're going to end with 2 unit service awards. And the first of these 2 service awards go to the HIDA Initiative Unit. HIDA being H-I-D-T-A. They're from the Milwaukee Police Department, Detective Matt Cooper, Detective Abner Valcarcel, I think I got that right. Officer Miguel Correa, and Officer Evelyn Lazo. Now, in addition to these, we ask these law enforcement partners to join us on stage tonight. From the Division of Criminal Investigation, Supervisor Special Agent Jacob Jansky. From the Drug Enforcement Administration, Special Agent Kellen Williams. From the Department of Justice, Assistant United States Attorney Mario F. Gonzalez, and from HIDA analyst Rebecca Bowdry. Back in June of 2016, HIDA, Heroin Initiative, was asked to assist the U.S. Attorney General's operation in the investigation of laundering of drug proceeds through several banks. This local group assisted the San Diego branch of the Drug Enforcement Administration and recovered nearly $1 million in U.S. cash in 3 months. In September 2017, case agents conducted a large-scale operation involving nearly 200 local, state, and federal law enforcement personnel aimed at arresting 21 of the agents of this investigation. At the accumulation of this operation, 20 of the 21 had been arrested on charges of conspiracy to deliver heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamine. 17 search warrants were executed on residences and vehicles associated with members of this drug trafficking organization. In all, this investigation yielded over $1.2 million in U.S. currency, over 30 kilograms of cocaine, 1.5 kilos of heroin, 50 pounds of marijuana, and 10 pounds of methamphetamine. This drug trafficking organization was responsible for countless narcotics-related crimes, which contributed greatly to street-level drug dealing in Milwaukee and the violent crimes associated with it. Because of interagency cooperation, diligent investigation, and months of collaborative work between the group on multiple local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies, a complex, high-volume drug trafficking organization was disrupted and dismantled. Now, the second unit service award is going to the Milwaukee Police Honor Guard, and tonight we recognize Inspector Leslie Teeley, Lieutenant Derek Harris, Lieutenant Madrina Dela Cruz, Lieutenant Charles Berard, Sergeant Greg Hawley, Sergeant Rebecca Carpenter, Sergeant Scott Thorne, Officer David Doty, Officer Greg Genesee, Officer Jamie Hewitt, Officer Trent Little, Officer Elvis Locke. It's your real name, right, Elvis, right? Real name, love that. Officer Peter Fow, Officer Dorian Ratliff, Officer Joel Rossman, Officer Eric Smith, Officer Thomas Struck, Retired Lieutenant Greg Duran, Retired Lieutenant Kathy Wickman, Retired Sergeant James Krause, Retired Officer Kathy Schultz, and Retired Officer Clifton Steffens. Back in February of 2012, the Milwaukee Police Department's Honor Guard was restructured. The unit obtained brand new dress uniforms and patent leather equipment thanks to Chief Ed Flynn. In October of 2013, 4 members traveled to Virginia to receive training for the Army Continental Color Guard and Honor Guard units. The members brought this new training back here to Milwaukee and have conducted training sessions with the entire unit. In May 2015, 4 members traveled to Washington, D.C. and participated in the National Law Enforcement Memorial Ceremony. The opportunity to join with other law enforcement agencies to show respect reiterated why this unit does what it does. Every year, the Honor Guard is utilized to handle numerous events, such as recruit graduations, award ceremonies, such as this, and funerals of MPD members. These members change their hours, their off days, even their vacations in order to be a part of a funeral or special event. These men and women have shown respect, great dedication, and loyalty to the policing profession with dignity and honor. What an an awesome night. Some of those stories really did read like a dramatic movie, didn't they? But they're real life, and they're real people. So another round of applause to all of those who have received awards tonight. Well, before we wrap things up, again, thank you for having me. It has been truly an honor and a pleasure. It was also an honor and a pleasure to get to know two of the members of MPD up close and personal, shall we say. Back in February for Black History Month, I did a nice profile. I thought it was a nice profile on Inspector Gordon and Inspector Jackson, and they really gave us a great insight, a great look into their careers, their climb up the ladder, their service, their dignity, their integrity. We got a lot of positive feedback. The stories are still on our website, fox6now.com, but it was an honor and a pleasure to interview them and show what everyday people do with extraordinary titles, and they certainly represent MPD and should be proud to be among them. So thanks, you guys, for doing that. Had to give that one little plug, actually. That was really nice. So thank you for having me. I enjoyed being here.
I just wanted to thank Mary Stoker Smith and Fox 6 News for loaning her to us for the night. And here's your gift.
Oh, thank you.
It's a Milwaukee Police t-shirt, of course.
Oh.
Hope you don't have a fire department one.
Well,
We'll throw that one to Goodwill.
Shrunk. It's too small.
Okay, there you go. We only get to do this twice a year, and honestly, I get to listen to all the Merit Award submissions, and I'm telling you, we have more good work that is done by our police officers and our community members than you guys can sit through and listen to in a night. So, with that, I thank you for coming and supporting your family. I thank Chief Flynn for allowing us to have the Physical Fitness Award for the first time ever. We will continue to have it, and I hope that more people participate. And on that note, in 182, we will be having cookies after the ceremony. So, thank you again. Inspector Gordon, can you lead the executive staff out, please? Thank you.